Hunter Biden is scheduled to go before U.S. District Judge Mary Ellen Noriega on July 26. That's after he reached a deal this week with prosecutors to plead guilty to two misdemeanors, charging him with failing to pay taxes on nearly $3 million of income. Biden has also agreed not to contest charges that he lied when filling out forms to purchase a gun. When he was filling out the forms, he claimed he didn't use drugs, but at the time, he was in the throes of a crack bender. And because there's nothing else that needs attending to here in America, the Republican-controlled House Ways and Means Committee released transcripts of interviews with two unnamed employees of the Internal Revenue Service who claim that our Justice Department intervened to ensure that Hunter Biden was not charged with more serious felonies. These two witnesses are low-level employees. There were no statements from any Internal Revenue officials who were actually in charge of the investigation. And David Weiss, he's the U.S. prosecutor in charge of the case, he said he received, nor did he apply, pressure to go easy on Hunter Biden's tax problem. David Weiss was appointed by Donald Trump specifically to look into Hunter Biden, and he has spent the past 5 years investigating Hunter Biden, and this is the deal he has struck. It's not good enough for the Republicans. They want to destroy this man's life. While the president's oldest son has been drug-free since 2019, not sure we can say the same about our former president's oldest son, Donald Trump Jr. Now, look, everyone says he's snorting coke and Adderall. That's what people are saying. I don't know if it's true. I'm just saying, if you ask most people, they say Donald Trump Jr. has some kind of addiction issue. That's what I hear. That's what people are saying. I don't know if it's true, but personally, I hope he's on some kind of drug, because I would hate to think he's that stupid all on his own. Again, I don't wish drug addiction for Don Jr., but at least with a drug addiction, you can go into rehab. Excuse me. The kind of stupidity Don Jr. exhibits, well, if that's not the drugs talking, then he needs to be lobotomized. That is some good coffee. Well, Don Jr. is planning a speaking tour in Australia for later this summer, but LGBTQ activists are insisting that he not be allowed a work visa in Australia because of the hate speech he keeps spewing about gender-affirming care for transgender minors. Australia's Associated Press, in anticipation of Don Jr.'s arrival, fact-checked one of his claims about transgender people. Here is what Don Jr. claimed. 93% of children who change their gender end up regretting it. This is what Don Jr. says. And by the way, whenever you're looking for medical advice, Don Jr. The Australian Associated Press says that is false. Studies into rates of regret among young transgender people put the figure at about 1% or lower. That's Don Jr., who may not be allowed in Australia because of what he says about the LGBTQ community. Now, I would never want to make fun of the way Kimberly Gargoyle looks. She is Don Jr.'s fiancée, and she's the woman Don Jr. Was told he could have by Don Sr. Don Sr. said, "I'm passing on her." Literally, I'm not making this up. He said, "Son, you take her. I could have it, but I don't want it," unquote. That's the great thing about the Trumps. You don't have to lie about them. You know, the Republicans have to make crap up about the Bidens. The Trump stuff is just out in the open. I don't want it. You take it. So Don Jr. ended up with Kimberly Gargoyle, and this is Kimberly Gargoyle, and here she is plugging tonight's podcast. She has a podcast. It's a video podcast. Here she is plugging it.
Big breaking news, and I'm fresh from coming from Bedminster, New Jersey, spending time with the president. We'll have all the latest on the arraignment, the indictment, and so much more about the corruption of Joe Biden and his weaponized DOJ.
Isn't she great? And she looks fantastic. You know, all dolled up for her podcast, which I'm assuming is called Drag Queen Story Hour. I mean, those plumpish lips look like they were gang stung by a swarm of African bees. Her décolletage, her eyes, her choice in eyeshadow, and of course her fingernails. I support her decision. Or maybe she was born this way. It's none of my business. But she does live in Florida, so it's somebody's business. What I mean is she should think twice about which public restroom she decides to use. It's like, let's make a deal. Do I pick door number 1 to do number 2, or door number 2 to do number 1? They will lock your ass up if you pick the wrong door, Kimberly. Again, her fiancé Don Jr. is going to be out of town touring Australia, passing judgment on transgender minors, and I would hate for him to have to cut short his trip, fly home, and bail Kimberly out because some restroom vigilante mistook her for whatever she claims not to be. See, Kimberly identifies, I think, as a woman, but it kind of looks like she really is a woman trapped in a man's body that wishes he was a woman. That's the look I think she's going for, and I think she's pulling it off. It's very convincing. She is a woman who identifies as a man who identifies as a woman, and I respect that. I just don't know which bathroom she's supposed to use in Florida. And this is who Don Jr. is going to marry. And Don Jr. is going to be touring Australia, telling the LGBTQ community to pick a team. This is very confusing. I don't know. Explain this to me. How about tend your own garden, Kimberly and Don? Tend your own garden. Are you growing a zucchini or a Venus flytrap? Kimberly Gargoyle may want to stay out of Texas as well, not just Florida, but Texas. Earlier in the week, Texas became the 4th Republican-controlled state to criminalize drag queens. Texas, where a guy can purchase an AR-15 with no legal ramifications, but toss some peach-colored lipstick and eyeshadow into the bag, and you're looking at the electric chair. Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed a new law this week that forbids performances in front of minors that are, quote-unquote, sexual in nature. Now, the language of sexual in nature is just vague enough for libraries to start canceling Drag Queen Story Hour, begging a really important question: is a drag queen reading children's stories sexual in nature? Is a non-binary person dressed flamboyantly, is that sexual in nature? Well, Republicans think it is because they see a drag queen and it arouses them, and they don't like how that makes them feel. But drag queens aren't walking around with raging hard-ons because this isn't about sex for them. It's about feeling good about oneself. Republicans, however, are turned on by drag queens. They see this, so they think it's sexual in nature for them, not for the drag queen, for the Republicans. Do you honestly think a drag queen would go into a library and read to children if it turned them on sexually? We've been seeing Drag Queen Story Hour for years. There's not one case of a kid being molested or a drag queen being sexually harassed. Dressing this way has nothing to do with sex. It's all about identity and feeling attractive. But Republicans like Greg Abbott look at drag queens the same way they look at rape victims. They blame them for how they are dressed. They blame them for how they make someone else feel. The way you dress confuses Republican men. It turns them on. So it's your fault they react this way. It's your fault that they're getting a boner when they see a drag queen. If you're a Republican, you don't want to feel certain things. You don't want to know certain things because it shatters your narrow, provincial worldview. I don't want to know about critical race. Don't tell me about our country's original sin vis-a-vis African Americans. It makes me feel bad. And keep drag queens out of my line of sight because they turn me on. I want them. I dream about them. And this would never have happened if I never saw a drag queen. And that's why I believe that if children are never exposed to drag queens or any other members of the LGBTQ community, then nobody will plant the seed in their head that they can be more than just a straight, non-binary individual. If all a man knows is he marries a woman and has children with her, then he will get married and have children with her and live happily ever after. And by living happily ever after, I mean he'll beat his wife, hang out in restrooms, soliciting undercover cops, while his kids end up in foster homes. Newsweek reports that 1 out of every 8 Americans is non-binary or trans or has a family member who is. Maybe we should just leave everyone alone. Life is hard. So is love. It's really hard to have a sense of belonging. We're all alone. So why make it harder for people? We're social animals. We die when we're not part of a community. But Republicans, well, they're all about exclusion and hyper-individuality. Teach your kids you don't need anyone, right? You're on your own in this world. Well, that's the Reagan legacy. The cowboy out on the range, the lie, the myth, which is why since Reagan took office, drug overdoses, suicides, and mental illness here in America have all increased dramatically. Target reports that it is no longer safe to sell merchandise celebrating Pride Month. Republicans have launched a boycott, but the boycott isn't good enough. Last weekend, bomb threats were called into 5 separate Target locations as right-wing media ramps up its antipathy towards the LGBTQ community and corporations that celebrate Pride. Which brings me to Rudy Giuliani, who has had his law license suspended in Washington, D.C. and New York for the lies he spread in trying to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Yet, they still haven't stripped him of his law license. They suspended it. This alcoholic, Rudy Giuliani, disgraced the legal profession, lost 60 cases challenging the election, helped incite an insurrection on January 6 when he opened for Donald Trump on the ellipse and shouted at the top of his lungs, "It's time for trial by combat." And yet he still hasn't been stripped of his law licenses. Well, you know, there are procedures and appeals. Yeah. See, the problem with lawyers is they police their own. The bar associations are all run by lawyers, and they think it's a bad precedent to start disciplining each other because it's a slippery slope. Where does it end? I don't know, until you get rid of all the corrupt sociopaths who call themselves officers of the court. Well, here is a corrupt sociopath, alcoholic, who calls himself an officer of the court. Here is Rudy Giuliani on Newsmax. Here he is targeting the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Don't go to Dodger games. The Dodgers have decided to declare war on Christianity. Forget the Dodgers. You don't have to go. I did that with the Yankees when they supported Black Lives Matter.
Okay, so I don't understand this. The Dodgers have declared, the baseball team, the Dodgers, have declared war on Christianity. That's their business model? The management said, I got an idea. How do we piss off anyone who believes in Jesus? That's how they plan to fill the stadium? Okay, I don't know what's going on. Let's ask Florida Senator Republican Marco Rubio.
Tonight, the Dodgers aren't celebrating pride. They are promoting bigotry.
Okay, so from what I can tell, the Dodgers had a Friday night game that celebrated the gay community in Los Angeles. Let's turn to Martha McCullum from Fox News. She always explains things well.
The Dodgers are celebrating Pride Month.
Okay, so the Dodgers are celebrating Pride Month, and this has Rudy Giuliani and Marco Rubio upset. And because why would the Dodgers celebrate the gay community in Los Angeles? That makes no sense. I mean, there are no gay people who live and work in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is a show business town. And everyone knows there are no members of the LGBTQ community who work in show business. Okay, so as I understand this, Rudy Giuliani, who's had his law licenses suspended in Washington, D.C. and New York City, he is saying that the Dodgers, by celebrating gay pride, have declared war on Christianity. And according to Senator Marco Rubio, celebrating the LGBTQ community is actually a celebration of bigotry. Okay. Because by welcoming the LGBTQ community into the Dodger family, I guess, that means you're being bigoted towards bigots. And according to Rudy Giuliani, by being bigoted towards the bigoted, by challenging the intolerant, by being intolerant towards the intolerant, you're declaring war on Christianity? Really? That's your version of Christ? Well, as I said, whenever I'm confused, I turn to Martha McCullum from Fox News. Martha?
And in that celebration, they're honoring a group called the Sisters, like nuns, of Perpetual Indulgence.
Okay, they're celebrating Pride Month. How is that declaring war on Christianity? The Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. I know the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. They're a charity. They're a religious organization. They're tax exempt, just like any other religion. And they have nuns and they worship Jesus Christ. And that's the great thing about the First Amendment, because it has the Establishment Clause inside of it. You get to worship any way you want, and you don't have to pay taxes. It's called religious freedom. You're a Jew, I'm a Catholic, we're all free to believe whatever we want. Religious freedom, it's one of the core tenets of the far right. I don't want to provide contraception to my employees because it goes against my religious freedom. Or don't make me bake a cake for a same-sex couple. It goes against my religious freedom. We have to respect everyone's religion and, of course, their tax-exempt status. Father Gerald Murray is a Catholic priest. He was born in Brooklyn and attended Dartmouth and became a priest and then a lawyer and studied canon law in the Vatican in the 1990s, right around the time Cardinal Ratzinger was shuttling pedophile priests from one parish to another. Now, look, I like the Catholic Church. It's one of the few religions that focuses on helping the poor and doing good deeds. But let's not forget, they have a serious problem. Too many of their priests won't stop molesting young boys. And it's problematic. And I'm not saying all priests are gay or child molesters, two completely separate things. I'm just saying there are a lot of child molesters in the Catholic Church. They need to clean it up. Again, as far as religions go, I think the Catholic Church does a lot of good in this world, but every Catholic priest should keep their mouth shut on homosexuality until they can all keep their mouths shut around altar boys. Lecture us about greed, about how we treat the poor, not human sexuality. I would say a Catholic priest is probably the last person on the planet who should be opining on the pros and cons of gay sex. But there was Brooklyn's very own Gerald Murray, Father Gerald Murray, on with Martha McCallum, Fox News, objecting to the Dodgers celebrating Pride Night. Is it because you never forgave the Dodgers for moving from Brooklyn to Los Angeles? Or is there something else at play, Father Gerald Murray?
We teach morality. We teach that homosexual activity is wrong. You shouldn't do it.
Okay, so you teach homosexuality is wrong. Who asked? Who cares what you think? Jesus preached love. So how can homosexuality be wrong? How can loving someone be wrong? You're wrong, Father. You're judging others, by the way, in direct violation of Matthew. Judge not, lest ye be judged. So, Father Murray, with all due respect, I think you're going to burn in hell for passing judgment on homosexuals. I really believe that, and that's my religious freedom here in America, to believe that you're going to burn in hell for passing judgment on homosexuals, Father Gerald Murray. You need to repent. Stick with helping the poor. Make Jesus happy. Don't pass judgment on anybody. Worry about the meek. Well, let's blur the line between church and state, and let's go back to Senator Marco Rubio. Senator Marco Rubio, tell me, what is your problem? What is the problem with the Dodgers celebrating gay pride by inviting the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence? They're a tax-free religious organization. What about their religious freedom?
The so-called Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence are not community heroes. They are nothing more than an anti-Catholic hate group.
Wow. Wow, that is incendiary. You should take that back. I used to live in San Francisco, and they are community heroes. When nobody would feed and care for the victims of AIDS, they were there on the front lines, which is more than I can say for other religions. So how can they be an anti-Catholic hate group? What? Because they celebrate homosexuality? That makes them anti-Catholic? That makes them an anti-Catholic hate group? Martha McCallum, help us out. Who are the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence? What are their religious beliefs? Why are they granted tax-free status? What about their religious freedom?
They call themselves a leading-edge order of queer and trans nuns. They've been around in one form or another since the 1970s. They have raised money for gay refugees and AIDS sufferers over the years.
Well, that sounds like my kind of religion. How do I convert? I want to join this religion. How is this anti-Catholic, Martha McCallum?
Here's just one example of what they do. Every year, this is called the Hunky Jesus Contest. A warning, this might not be everyone's cup of tea, but we want to show you what's going on here. Here's a bit.
A warning. Yeah, this is Fox News, and we really, really don't want to show you this, but we have to because our journalistic ethics are so high. This isn't about titillation. This is about reporting, and we feel that you have to see the Hunky Jesus competition. We can't just tell you about it. We have to show it because that's what good right-wing religious conservative news networks like Fox do. We would really like to spare you this. We really wish we didn't have to show you Hunky Jesus because we know how religious our audience is, but it would be journalistic malpractice not to show you this. So here is the Hunky Jesus contest. That's Fox News showing us the Hunky Jesus contest. That's a ripped and buff, shirtless, sweet Jesus. I like that. Sweet Jesus, Pop. This is religious freedom, First Amendment. I don't know how this is anti-Catholic. Sweet Jesus popping a sugar cube in his mouth. And this is what's great about religious freedom. Some people say religious freedom gives them the right to claim they're not baking a cake for a same-sex couple. And other people got to say Jesus walked around in sandals and assless chaps. And when he wasn't healing the lame, he was getting busy with his 12 apostles. You get to believe whatever you want, so long as you're not molesting little boys. That's it. That's the First Amendment. Basically, you can say and do whatever you want. You can worship any way you want, Father Murray, as long as you're not molesting children. And you know, it's funny about the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, Father Murray of the Catholic Church. I used to live in San Francisco. There has not been one single arrest of a member of these Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence for child molestation. Not one. They've been around since the 70s. Not one of those nuns has been arrested for molesting a child. The Catholic Church, which calls the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence an anti-Catholic hate group, on the other hand, has spent billions paying off the thousands upon thousands of young boys those priests have molested. And yet Father Murray is passing judgment on homosexuality. Please continue, Martha McCullum from Fox News.
Okay, so I'm sure it's not a big surprise to you that Catholic bishops are outraged.
Yeah, why? Yeah, it is a surprise. What does this have to do with Catholic bishops? Catholic bishops should reserve their outrage for all the child molesters in their ranks. I don't understand this. Father Gerald Murray of the Catholic Church, you're a priest. You're not with the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. I get that. But you're a lawyer. The First Amendment says we can worship any way we want. We can say anything we want. We can produce any movies or videos we want, with one caveat, Father Murray: don't molest children. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, just don't molest little boys. It's all there in the First Amendment. I don't understand Father Gerald Murray of the Catholic Church. Why does the Catholic Church have a problem with the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence?
We teach morality. We teach that homosexual activity is wrong. You shouldn't do it.
Yeah, see, you got to stop doing that. Matthew, I told you, Matthew says, judge not lest ye be judged. I get it. You personally have a problem with homosexuality. You should examine your own issues. But personally, my religious freedom, my religious beliefs, teach me that you're going to burn in hell if you keep passing judgment on homosexuals. You call the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence an anti-Catholic hate group because they're gay, even though so many priests are gay? Okay, let me ask someone from the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. By the way, they are a tax-exempt religious order protected by the First Amendment here in America to worship Jesus any way they want, so long as they don't molest little children, which they don't. Unlike the Catholic Church, there have been no incidents of child molestation within the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence.
Oh, hey! Sweet Jesus!
I wasn't supposed to play that clip, but, you know, Freud says there are no mistakes, and I think I found my Jesus. Martha McCullum.
This is Sister Unity from the group. Watch.
Okay, we're going to meet Sister Unity in a second. But let me go back to this guy one more time. My Jesus.
Oh, hey. Oh, sweet Jesus.
Be still my heart, Jesus. Fox News showed this. And here's my personal choice, my religious freedom. I would be much more comfortable having sweet Jesus over there teach my 10-year-old son than I would Father Gerald Murray of the Catholic Church. Because I know sweet Jesus would never molest my son. And I'm pretty sure Father Gerald Murray wouldn't molest my son either. But using my actuarial tables, if I had a bet on who would most likely end up molesting my son, the chances, according to my actuarial tables, are much greater that Father Gerald Murray from the Catholic Church would molest my son. More likely he would do it than sweet Jesus would. Like I said, not a single child molestation charge against the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. They've been around since the 70s. And yet, billions upon billions of dollars that were supposed to go to the poor ended up paid out to men who were molested when they were kids by Catholic priests. Okay, so let's hear from Sister Unity. We're going to hear from Sister Unity. She's a spokesperson for the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, and she never molested an altar boy. And I'm sure Father Gerald Murray from the Catholic Church never molested an altar boy. But he's a lawyer with the church. How can I be certain Father Gerald Murray, how can I be certain that he didn't help hide a child molesting priest from authorities? I'm sure he didn't, but I can't be 100% positive. I mean, Cardinal Ratzinger did that for a living before he became Pope. Okay, Sister Unity from the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, would you like to tell Father Gerald Murray anything?
And the Catholic League needs to know that we're not freaks out here on our own, that you can just hit like a tin can off a fence. We are part of a large community, some of whom are even part of your church.
Father Gerald Murray, would you like to respond to Sister Unity, who, unlike you, I am 100% certain never molested a young man or hid a child molesting priest from the police? Would you like to respond, Father Gerald Murray?
We teach morality. We teach that homosexual activity is wrong. You shouldn't do it.
Okay, you really have to stop saying that, Father Murray. It's intolerant, it's bigoted, it's prejudicial, and I think it might even be against the law to teach that here in America. I really do. I think you can't teach that. That makes you a hate group, I'm pretty sure. So anyway, go ahead.
It's now intolerance of Catholics.
Wait, you're the bigot. How can you say homosexuality is wrong and then claim you're the victim here of bigotry? Who's the hate group? Sister Unity from the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence isn't preaching hatred for Catholics. She's not saying Catholics are bad, but you're saying homosexuality is wrong. You're the bigot.
This is anti-religious bigotry by a hate group.
What does this have to do with Catholics? You're intolerant. And we don't tolerate intolerance. And you're saying somehow it's about your Catholicism? No. It's about your illegal teachings that homosexuality is wrong. I'm pretty sure it's illegal now to teach that homosexuality is wrong.
We teach morality. We teach that homosexual activity is wrong. You shouldn't do it.
Okay, you're accusing someone else of doing what you're doing. Go on. You got to stop with this crap.
But if people attack us, if people turn and say, you Catholics are a bunch of bigoted, bad people, we're going to say, no, you're wrong. You're trying to use emotional and psychological terrorism to make us be quiet. We're not going to do that.
No. You don't understand. You're the bigot. The fact that you're a Catholic priest has nothing to do with it, because there are plenty of Catholic priests who welcome homosexuals into the parish. You're a bigot. Has nothing to do with your Catholicism. In fact, your Pope, Pope Francis, doesn't agree with you. He's been trying to welcome homosexuals into the church, but he gets too much pushback from bigots like you. This has nothing to do with religion. You're hiding your bigotry behind religion. You're a bigot and a homophobe and a bad Catholic. You're a bad Catholic. Your Pope, Pope Francis, said as far back as July of 2013, quote, "If gay people accept the Lord and have goodwill, who am I to judge them?" That's what your Pope says. If gay people accept the Lord and have goodwill, who am I to judge them? You're a bad Catholic. During Christmas of 2014, the Pope said, quote, "We have to find a way to help that father or that mother to stand by their LGBTQ son or daughter." Father Gerald Murray, what do you have to say to your Pope?
We teach morality. We teach that homosexual activity is wrong. You shouldn't do it.
Matthew and your Pope both say, "Judge not, lest ye be judged." I think you're going to burn in hell, Father Gerald Murray. I think you're, for passing judgment on homosexuals, you're going to burn in hell unless you repent. Is there anything else, Father Gerald Murray, that you would like to add?
What if a bunch of women dressed up as Hasidic rabbis with hats and coats and the like, and then marched around making fun of Judaism?
Yeah, you had to bring the Jews into it. Okay. First off, the Jews invented homosexuality. Most Jewish mothers wish their son was gay because no woman is ever good enough for her darling baby David. Okay, maybe I'm just talking about my own mother, but my mother wished I was gay. I'm confused. What was the question again about the Hasidic Jews?
What if a bunch of women dressed up as Hasidic rabbis with hats and coats and the like, and then marched around making fun of Judaism?
Cheer them on, laugh, join them. What? It depends. What the Hasid said. What did said Hasid say? I mean, if there's a woman walking around dressed like a Hasid, making fun of Judaism, I guess what you're saying is in some parts of the Jewish religion, the stupid parts of my religion, the uneducated parts, they don't allow female rabbis. Those people are idiots and should be mocked for their bigotry and intolerance. They're backward and stupid. I would welcome anybody. I would welcome a woman dressing as a male rabbi to mock the intolerance and stupidity of anybody who believes a woman can't be a rabbi. That's how I feel. And it has nothing to do with Judaism. You can't, a Jew, anybody, you can't be prejudiced towards gays or Arabs and say, when somebody passes judgment on you, oh, you hate my religion. It has nothing to do with religion. It's your stupidity. It's your mental illness. Hey, Father Gerald Murray, I roughed you up a little. Look, I'm sure, other than all the suicides you cause, this kind of hate speech causes suicides, you probably think you mean well. Do your job. Worry about the meek. Worry about the poor. Because some of us are sick of your tax-exempt status that goes towards bigotry, towards the gay, the LGBTQ community. So I stand in judgment of you, Father Murray, and until you apologize for teaching that homosexuality is wrong, I accuse you, and I think you're going to burn in hell. I stand in judgment of you. You're not following the teachings of your own pope. I point my finger and I accuse you of being a bad Catholic, and you should be excommunicated for the illegal teaching that homosexuality is wrong. You, Father Murray, unlike the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, should lose your tax-exempt status because your little corner of Catholicism preaches intolerance and hate. Obey your Pope. Obey your Pope. Obey Jesus. Here's a real disciple of Jesus Christ. He's the Reverend William Barber, who delivered his final sermon from the pulpit of the Greenleaf Church. For 30 years, William Barber served the people of Raleigh, North Carolina. More importantly, he carries on the legacy of Dr. King by preaching a Christianity of love and a focus on the poor. Now, before he died, Dr. King took part in the Poor People's Campaign, to which Reverend Barber has devoted most of his life. Reverend Barber is 59. He suffers from a bone condition that has fused his spine. It's giving him a hunched back, and it makes it difficult for him to march, but he marches and will continue to march. He's leaving his church to train future pastors and was recently appointed the founding director of the Center for Public Theology and Public Policy at Yale Divinity School. Maybe he can teach Father Gerald Murray a thing or two before Father Gerald Murray ends up burning in hell. Here is the great Reverend William Barber, who says poverty is the fourth leading cause of death in America.
Unnecessary poverty has been a long train of abuse. People not having health care has been a long train of abuse. Not raising the minimum wage to a living wage has been a long train of abuse. Underfunding education has been a long train of abuse. Attacking gay people and trans people and the LGBTI community has a long train of abuse. And we have a right and a duty.
I hear Jesus. I hear Christianity coming from Reverend William Barber. I hear it all, but I don't hear him on the Sunday talk shows because he doesn't attack homosexuals. You never really see William Barber in prime time. The news media, they love Jerry Falwell, Pat Robertson, any Christian preacher who preaches hate and intolerance and greed, but they don't want to put a real Christian out in front for everyone to see. The news media doesn't want to hear from real ministers who preach the real gospel because it's bad for business. The news media wants to encourage consumerism. So the only religious leaders we get to hear from are the ones like Father Gerald Murray, who preaches intolerance, or Joel, what's his name, who preaches greed. Let's listen to Reverend William Barber.
330,000 people dying from COVID, not dying from COVID, but dying because they didn't have health care. States that could have expanded health care didn't. And so in places like Mississippi, we had one family lost 20 members in a 30-mile radius.
I hear Jesus. Go on, Reverend.
We passed child income tax credit, picked a large percent of children out of poverty, and then dropped them right back into poverty. During COVID, we called people essential but treated them like they were expendable. Go to work, we said, as a nation and save us, but we're not going to pay you a living wages. Go to work and risk your life, but we're not going to give you health care. Go to work. Go to work. Go to work. But we're going to treat you like, oh, we'll ring a bell at 6 o'clock. We'll clap our hands. But that doesn't do anything when you go to work and you feel like you're saving people who don't even care if you live.
Well, Father Gerald Murray, would you like to respond?
We teach morality. We teach that homosexual activity is wrong. You shouldn't do it.
And you'll see him on television, but not the Reverend Barber. Why is that? Why is that? Who's the real Christian? Reverend Barber. I'm David Feldman, reminding you to stay strong and protect the weak. If you enjoyed any of this episode, please share it with your friends and family via social media or in an email. That's the best way to, if you want to thank me, is to share this, because nobody's helping. This is a I got Sam Cedar and Robert Smigel. They help me, but this is a grassroots effort. So if you want to help, please share this any way you can. Please leave a comment. People who are regular listeners to the show know that I read all your comments. I can't respond to all of them, but your comments are very helpful. Please subscribe to my newsletter by going to my website. Please subscribe to this channel. And I think that covers it. Thank you to all the moderators in the chat room who keep the conversation civil. We don't have any garbage people spewing garbage in our chat rooms. Once again, I'm David Feldman, reminding you to stay strong and protect the weak.